Hello folks, it's Fluorine19 here, welcoming you to my first ever Let's Play, and it's going to be on my favourite game of all time. You saw it there, No One Lives Forever 2. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it just while the credits roll. This is a game that was released in 2002. It's a first-person shooter slash spy stealth type game, and I genuinely think it's one of the most underrated games of all time. I ended up buying it about a year after it came out, and I have never ever in my life had as much fun with a game as I did while playing this one. I think it's a darn shame more people didn't buy it. So who knows, maybe I'll encourage a few of you to find it from somewhere and give it a go. So unfortunately, you see the credits coming up. There is a lot of hope that a sequel was going to be made, but there's a huge debate over who actually owns the rights to it. I don't know if they'd ever be interested in doing it anyway, but it looks like that's never going to happen. So, sadly, I will never get another version of this. This, though, is, as I say, an absolutely fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to showing it to all of you. I've set everything up in advance, so you don't have to watch me go through all of my settings and doing all that kind of thing, so that I can dive straight in. It did have a multiplayer mode, but that kind of got closed in 2008. I do know that people have set up a way of doing it, and I have tried it. It's just that there's virtually never anybody on, because as I say, it's an 11-year-old game now. But you will be astonished, you will be really surprised that it's 11 years old when you actually see it in action. So I will give you a very, very basic rundown of the story just while we sort of load it up. But essentially, you control a super spy called Cate Archer who works for somebody called Unity, which is kind of an equivalent to the CIA or MI6 or something like that. And you basically try and stop a deadly plot to, you know, end the world or whatever. You'll find out the plot as we go. But you control her throughout, and you basically stop the bad guys known as H.A.R.M, hence the H.A.R.M in the title. So I'm just going to get this game going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let all cutscenes roll because it is a very funny game. A lot of the cutscenes are quite amusing. So we start off with one. I'm going to play this on the hard difficulty because Super Spy is actually code for bloomin' impossible. And I think normal and easy is slightly too easy. Hard's a good level. So we're going to give it a go. Now, as I say, during the cutscenes I'm generally just going to shut up. So that's what we start with. And this will give you a little bit of insight into some of the characters. Once it loads. It always had a bit of a problem. Here we go.
Excuse me, miss. The director has requested an audience with you. Right, well, just tell him you'll be along shortly then.
Mother, you can't keep calling me at work. I have an operation to run.
What am I supposed to do? You're never at home. How do you expect me to get in touch with you? Carrier pigeon?
Look, I've got to go.
I haven't even told you why I called.
Yes, well, maybe next time you'll get to the point instead of lambasting me for a quarter hour.
Don't you hang up on me, do you hear me?
I need a drink.
You wanted to see me?
Mr. Volkov has requested your services. He's expecting someone to crash our little party tonight. He wants you to make our uninvited guest feel at home. Permanently.
When will my debt be paid, Sensei?
When I tell you it is. I promise we'll talk about it further, but first, Cate Archer must die.
So the original game is a game that actually I've never played. It's one of the games that's on my list of things that I have to play at some point. But essentially, that guy you saw there is revealed as the leader of this H.A.R.M organization at the end of the first game, I believe. So this is pretty much a direct sequel, as I say. Some of the characters are in the old one, quite a lot of them are new as well. You don't miss out on too much by not having played the original, I don't think. Everything makes a fair bit of sense. You might just miss a few in-jokes. So the first level of this chapter is sort of a tutorial. If you get things wrong, you are going to die, but it introduces you to the concepts of the game.
I'll wait for you here.
If I'm not back in an hour, clear out and contact headquarters.
It's not like you to be cynical.
Call it a hunch. Something about this assignment feels wrong. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Hattori-san is waiting for you somewhere in the village. Look for messages from him. Find Hattori-san. He can help you with your mission. Good luck.
Thank you. Right, so basic, if you didn't read the sort of mission parameter objective type thing that we saw at the beginning, basically I've got to sneak into this town and I've got to photograph a meeting which happens to involve the two people we saw in the previous cutscene. So that's the aim, so I'm going to go up past that waterfall. So what I was saying before about you not thinking this game is from 2002, you can see from the graphics it is an astonishing set of graphics for the time, and they held up reasonably well today. It has to be said. Obviously this is it with on its max settings, but still. So another thing you'll find throughout the level, you'll find various documents like this. What I'm going to do, for the vast majority of them, I'm sort of going to leave them on the screen for 2 or 3 seconds, and then you can pause them if you want to read them, and then some of the select documents that I find I will leave up on the screen for you to read. Some of them are funny, some of them are important, some of them are kind of irrelevant. But that's the kind of thing we're going to find. Every level as well, you'll notice I've got skill points appearing up the top. You'll see one of these spy training manuals, which gets you 200 skill points. And you can spend these skill points in the player screen and improve certain abilities. So you can tailor the way you want to play the game to based on your skill points. If you want to be just charging in like a maniac, you know, go high on the armor and the marksmanship and the weapon stuff. If you want to try and play it like a real spy, go about the stealth route. So again, it's notes like that. If you want to read that, you can pause it and have a look. But essentially, there are 6 pages hiding around this level, and if you collect all of them, you get a bit of a skill point bonus, and it tells you some of the basics about it. Now this little guy here.
It's me, Santa. Say hello to the Mark 7 mechanized miner bird. Perfect way for me to communicate with you in the field. Now then, anything I can do for you?
Basically what he's going to do is just give you a sort of a tutorial overview of what there is, but I need to listen to him to get the skill points. This bit's going to be a bit slow. Order to complete your mission.
On certain missions you may also receive parameters, which are general guidelines or rules of conduct. Violate them at your own risk.
That covers the basics. Anything else?
Anything else?
Yes, I have played this game too much.
The equipment screen shows you a complete list of the weapons and gadgets you're carrying. Choosing an item from this list will bring up a detailed description and a summary of available ammunition types or gadget functions, which can also be selected here. When you overcome certain obstacles or accomplish specific objectives,
you'll receive skill point
you'll
rewards.
receive skill point rewards. Bring up the player screen to spend these points to improve your abilities. Jolly good. I'll be in touch soon.
So that was just a sort of introduction to some of the things in the game. He's going to be dotted throughout this level, giving you advice in various places. Again, that's just some information. You can go back and read that if you so wish.
You can gauge your accuracy by your crosshair. The more blurred it becomes, the less accurate your shots will be. Rapid movement will tend to foul your aim.
Makes sense. Again, you'll see these things. I should have let you look at that, but you'll see packages dotted around sometimes. Those are usually sort of kind of like a supply crate. They'll have a weapon or a gadget or something in that's useful for you. Again, you can read that if you so wish. It's just to do with dead enemies. And we're going to have our first ninja somewhere around this corner, just past this rock. Santa's going to tell me to be quiet.
Careful! Enemies can hear any sound you make, so learn to move quietly. Your footsteps will give you away, but you can sneak to tread softly. Keep in mind that certain materials, such as ceramic tile, magnify sound, whereas surfaces like grass or snow will dampen your footfalls. Also, be careful not to knock over bottles or bump into wind chimes, or you'll cause a disturbance.
So what I've got in my hand now is a stun gun, well, a taser effectively disguised as mascara. Bear with me a moment while I just take her out. And you can search dead enemies to take their weapons, you don't pick them up automatically. That's just a warning about I'm coming. So you can put them to sleep with a taser and then just, you know, slash them. You can't chop their head off or anything, it's not that gruesome. You can pick up the bodies and hide them to try and be more stealthy. You can sort of sneak around, crouch, take stuff. You'll often find in, when you search through certain enemies, you'll find extra items if you search all the way. Public curfew. So yeah, so I will now go into the village, and I think there are 5 more ninjas on this level. I think it's not very long, so we'll go through and see if we can avoid being caught. That's good.
Try to dispatch enemies.
Way ahead of you, Santa.
If they see you, they'll cry out, attracting attention. Also, don't leave bodies lying around. Move them somewhere out of the way.
So if there's a dead body lying around, what the guards will do is they'll run over to it, and they'll sort of check, you know, are you okay? Obviously, the vast majority of the time, no, they're not. So that's a little bit daft, but they will do that. They will also react a lot to the environment. So if I'd say come up behind this guard, and if I'd run into those wind chimes or shaken them, the guard would have turned around and realised, what are you doing? Again, it's to do with the sort of surface that you're on. So if you're on tiles and whatnot, or that kind of surface that I'm looking at now, they'll be much more likely to hear you. If you're crouching or sneaking on soft ground, then they're not going to hear you at all. That one is a little bit relevant because you might be confused why an eye has suddenly come up. It's to do with there are certain sort of corners or alleyways or rooms or whatever, usually when you switch lights off and things, that you can hide in, and effectively you're basically invisible unless someone stands right on top of you. Which is very useful some of the time when you're trying to be sneaky.
You can lean around corners to see what's up ahead. Enemies will eventually notice.
There are 2 ninjas around this corner. You can lean. There's one. So I've got to time this so that I do this when the other one's walking away. Otherwise, I end up in a bit of trouble. Because what the guards will usually do, they'll either come straight out and fight you, or quite often one of them will run away, and they'll trigger an alarm.
There you
Oh
are!
crap! She will not die. How are these missing? I did not expect it to get spotted there. I made a right mess of that. Oops. Think I got away with it, just. That's a bit of an embarrassing way to start off. The music in the background varies depending on whether or not you've been spotted. So, you might have noticed a change. I just went slightly too close. I need us to come down here. But yeah, you really have got to be careful with how close you get to being in danger. Right, let's see if I can make less of a mess of this one. Thank you. Hide that. So we've got the ammo in the bottom right, health in the bottom left, if you hadn't figured that out already. Other things you can do, you can throw a coin out onto the ground to distract a guard. It's often quite helpful. I'm going to shut up again, because we're going to get an added little bonus here.
I'm hungry.
You just ate.
I can't help it. I eat when I'm stressed.
Why are you stressed?
I have a bad feeling about tonight.
You're worried about one little spy?
No! Kenji-san asked me to meet him later. I think he wants to break up.
My grandmother said you should poison your man every morning before he leaves. Tell him he can have the antidote when he comes home.
What poison should I use?
I'm sure my grandmother can give you something. She doesn't need it.
She's not worried about your grandfather running away?
He can't. He's paralyzed. You have to be very careful with the dosage.
Phew! So there you go, kids. There's a lesson for you if you want to poison somebody. Make sure you're careful with the amount. Found a Dear John letter. First aid kit. So that's the sort of benefit of... hang on. Why am I... There we go. I appear to have got my shift key stuck. So I'm forced to sneak. I don't know what's going on with that. Hang on. So that's the end of this level, actually, pretty much. It's a pretty basic level. Here's one of the alarms that the ninjas can set off that I was just talking about. I can set it off if I so wish, but that would be pretty stupid. And I think I've found everything on this level. I think. So when I go through that little doorway there, it'll load the next level. Yep, I've got everything. Okay. So that is an introduction to North 2. Fairly basic. The reason I made quite a meal of it earlier goes back to what I was saying. When you get enough skill points, you can spend it on things so that your shots are much more accurate and stuff. Which probably would have helped me from nearly dying, which would have been embarrassing. Fortunately, I'm back to full health now. So as I say, I'll go through this door and we will carry on.